What's up, everybody? It's Gino coming at you to break down UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Pavlovich. Let's get right into it, but before I get started, if you have not done this, hit my channel with a subscribe right now, like this video, leave me a comment of your favorite fighter, or just hit me with a letter. I don't even care. Just leave me a comment of something so we can get this algorithm boosted. All right, first we're going to have Blaydes versus Pavlovich. I really like Pavlovich because the under 1.5 is minus 165. I think that favors him. The longer the fight goes, it favors Blaydes because, as you see, he has wrestling volume. But if you also look at it, if Blaydes were to win, he has the ability to score well on Draftkings. He scored 116, 92, 85, 172, and 82. So he has that ceiling because of the wrestling, and that is probably his best path to victory against a guy that's a powerful striker that has that questionable wrestling like Pavlovich. So I think he has a path to score well, but I think he tries to get in there, and I think Pavlovich probably steamrolls him. Pavlovich is a bad man, and I think he cracks that chin, which is already questionable, of Blaydes. Next, one more thing. Before I forget, this is important for all his GPP players. You will see I am at field ownership on the fight because I want to match that ownership and try to get leverage on it, because there's worlds where this fight doesn't score well. You can see where Blaydes hasn't scored well. Now, Pavlovich, on the other hand, I mean, he scores well most of the time, but what if it goes to round 2 in this one and the volume sucks? Could not score well. Okay, this one I'm picking the dog and Bruno Silva versus Bradley Tavares. Here is why. If you look at Bruno Silva, all 3 of his wins were TKO wins. The under 2.5 is minus 130, so it's trending towards it being a finish. He's fighting a Tavares who his last win was in 21, but he's a minus 155 favorite. I mean, I get it. Bruno Silva's kind of questionable, but I don't think Tavares deserves that respect, so I want to go with the value in Silva. $7,300 on Draftkings as well. Scored 108, 79, and 102 in his last 3 fights. If you look at Tavares, he hasn't scored over 80 points ever. So, with that being said, we're going to go dog or pass on the Draftkings, and we're picking Silva. Next, we have Jared Gordon versus Bobby Green. I'm very conflicted because I'm a huge Jared Gordon fan. He's a fellow brother in sobriety. Got a lot of respect for him. But I also, I tried to set the bias aside. I watched the Paddy Pimblay fight, striker. But, Paddy does have that that background of that submission ability and the ability on the ground. But he's fighting a guy in Bobby Green who's not a bad fighter. I mean, Bobby has fought all the top guys. He's lost, but he's competed. Bobby has scored 110 to 130 in his wins on DraftKings, but I like Jared Gordon, so I'm going to make my exception to the $6,000 rule, especially when there's a larger sample. I tend to pick one $6,000 fighter because the larger the sample, the more value you can find. Brogan Walker versus Lucindo. I'm going Lucindo here, and it's going to be Lucindo or pass because I don't fight $6,000 fighters. She was 7-0 prior to her, or on a 7-fight win streak prior to her loss to Sergei recently. She's a possible early finish candidate, so I'm going to be on her. This one I'm picking Jeremiah Wells. It's Jeremiah Wells versus Matthew Semmelsberger. I want to be over the field on both fighters, but Wells is a core play for me. Wells has scored 102, 110, and 96 in his last 3 UFC wins. He's 3-0 in the UFC right now. All finishes, 2 round 2, 1 round 1. He does have submission upside. He can get some takedowns and some control times in this fight. He's fighting a guy in Semmelsberger who's not a bad fighter. He's 3-1 with a decision loss to Moreno. So he's going to be tough. But the over under is set at 1.5. That's where the round line's set. So I think that favors a finisher in Wells, but I want to be heavily invested in both guys. Christos Giagos versus Ricky Glenn. I'm going Ricky Glenn, but I'm 80% invested in this fight as a whole because I think Giagos, he doesn't even have to score 100 at his price of 7,200, and he's 2-2 in his last 4. He's fought in guys like Tazukarian and Moises. He's fighting a guy in Ricky Glenn who's got a similar record, who's 2-2. He has losses to Aguilar and Jury. But if you look at Glenn, He was only finished one time in his career in 2014. He scores as high as 140 on DraftKings in his recent wins. He has pockets of wrestling, but a lot of striking and knockdown potential. He could crack that chin of Giagos, get him down, knock him down several times on his way to a finish, and score very well in this fight. I'm picking Ricky Glenn, but again, I think either way this fight goes, we could get a good score. Fade this fight, 9,700 and then 6,500. It's two things I don't like. Norma Dumont versus Carol Rosa. I'm actually going to go Rosa. I think Rosa is going to take it the pace on Dumont, wear her down, get the wrestling, volume her, possibly score extremely well at a $7,900 price. But I think that either way, the girls have a chance because while she's doing that, Dumont could land a submission, but Dumont could do the same thing to her. Usually I go with the dog in female fights, but I have a lot of I think Rosa can get it done here. This is a fight I'm going to be underweight on because I think the volume here could just cause a crappy score. Tafa's got experience kickboxing and Muay Thai, but he's relatively unknown, and he's fighting a guy who we saw has the knockout power, even if it was against a crappy guy in Usman when he knocked out Poga. But, I've seen more of him, so I'm going to go with him. I don't think either guy is probably that good, but it'll be interesting. Maybe Tafa looks really great, but I'm not banking on it. Let's go Francis Marshall versus William Gomez now. We're gonna go Marshall, and it's gonna be Marshall or pass. I don't like Gomez's volume. I think it stinks. Marshall's 5 of his 7 wins have been finishes. He scored 100 in his debut over Rojo. It is his second fight in the UFC, but even going back and watching Gomez, he's shown me nothing. Karine Silva versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Priscilla Cachoeira is early. She can get an early finish. She's also very tough. They call her she's zombie girl. But she's fighting a guy in Silva who has that submission ability. Just because you got the chin doesn't mean you can't get submitted. I think that could happen here. And that's what I'm kind of banking on. But I do think elevated ownership on both fighter could score well. Next we have Badgeril versus Brady Highstand. This one, we're going to go Brady Highstand. I'm watching both guys, and they look relatively even. You got a Brady Highstand who's 1-1 in the UFC. Then you have a Dana who's 2-2 over his last 4. He has a TKO loss to Gutierrez. Highstand has a decision win over Fernie Garcia most recently. He did lose to Tercios in his debut. He has a wrestling upside. He scored 76 in his loss, so that tells you he's got a really good floor. All of his finishes have been around 1. So I like his opportunity to score well, but either guy could score well. Dana scored 109, 128, and 126 in his last 3 wins, but I'm going with the dog here. All right, guys. Hey, I appreciate it. If you have not done this yet, hit my channel with a subscribe. All right. And if you're interested in what I'm doing, how I'm getting all this information, go to the DFS Army, use my promo code DFLGino, get 10% off. It's every sport you can think of. We got an amazing Discord with pretty much every sport. You just go to it, you get picks, you get plays. It's really great community, and then you get to talk to pros. All right, guys. Hey, I appreciate it, and good luck this Saturday.